The morning air still held the chill of dawn as I pinned my mother's favorite bedsheets on the line, the faded floral fabric catching the wind like a quiet rebellion. Across the garden, my father's voice broke through the hum of the neighborhood, sharp, measured, and final. No distractions this year. Your life is already planned. I didn't answer. I just watched the wind tug at the sheets, wishing I could be that free, drifting, directionless, unjudged. Beneath my calm face, my heart beat wild. A message buzzed in my pocket. Group chat. Europe girls yellow heart. Final itinerary confirmed. Zurich to Florence via Milan. Let's go. I smiled, small secret. Then I folded the laundry, stepped inside, and found my father reading at the kitchen table, his coffee untouched. My voice trembled despite my resolve. Papa, the trip. With my friends. Just for 2 weeks. He looked up, not with surprise but with calculation. Silence stretched. Finally he sighed. You may go. I blinked. Really? But remember who you are, he added, not looking at me. And who you belong to. My chest tightened. I nodded. Yes, Papa. Upstairs, I packed in a daze. My fingers danced over soft scarves, passport pages, and used perfume. For once, my future wasn't written in someone else's handwriting. Maybe, just maybe, it could be mine. At the airport, I watched the planes lift into clouded skies, heart thudding like the wheels of a departing train. I had no idea what was waiting for me out there. I just knew it wouldn't be Marco.
The train hummed beneath my feet like it knew where it was going. Window open, hair catching wind, I leaned out and grinned at London's gray skyline as it blurred past. I wasn't running from anything, just from expectations. Business school dropout, check. Disappointed father, double check. Backpack full of chargers, snacks, and a half-crushed map, triple check. This was freedom, or something close enough. I turned back toward the carriage, letting the door slide shut behind me. And that's when I saw her. Front row window seat, book in hand, straight back, not a wrinkle on her blouse. The kind of girl who probably planned her whole life on color-coded spreadsheets. I dropped into the seat across from her, tossed my backpack between us, and smiled. Hey, no answer. I leaned in. Is the book more interesting than your seatmate? She looked up, eyes dark and unimpressed. Yes. Damn. I chuckled. Tough crowd. I came here for quiet, she said, calm but pointed. Not conversation. All right. I held up my hands, surrendering. The Ice Queen has spoken. Her eyes narrowed just a little. Better than being a jester who talks too much. Ouch. I turned toward the window, lips twitching. Okay, so she had bite. Beneath the silence that followed, I caught her watching me in the glass reflection. Just for a second. Curious. Interesting. She wasn't the kind of girl who'd fall for charm. She was the kind who needed truth. And maybe for the first time, I wanted to give someone just that.
The station in Zurich was colder than I expected. Gray sky, loud announcements, confused tourists everywhere. And I had just missed my connecting train. I stared at the departure board, blinking hard. Florence gone. My group had caught it. I hadn't. I clutched my backpack tighter, panic tightening in my chest. My phone buzzed. B, where are you? We thought you were right behind us. Me missed the train. I'll catch the next. Alone. A low groan cut through the noise. Him. The boy from the train. Adrian, I think. He stood nearby, frowning at the same board. Don't tell me. I missed it too, he said, sighing. Figures. Of course. Just my luck. No more trains until morning, he added. And the hostel's fully booked. I looked away. There must be somewhere. There's a covered bench near the west platform. Dry. Sort of. You expect me to sleep in a train station? I mean, he smirked. Unless you've got a secret hotel reservation I don't? I wanted to roll my eyes. Instead, I followed him reluctantly. The bench was, surprisingly, okay. 2 seats, 1 overhead light, and a vending machine that made awful noises. He tossed me a packet of cookies. Peace offering. I didn't smile. Not fully. But I took them. Just until morning, I said quietly, wrapping my arms around myself. He nodded. Just until morning. And there, in a foreign station with a stranger beside me. I felt the tiniest flicker of something unexpected. Not fear. Possibility.
The rain started slow, soft taps on the corrugated roof above us, then turned into a steady rhythm that drowned out everything else. She pulled her jacket tighter. I offered mine. She didn't take it, but she didn't refuse it either. We sat in silence for a while, our breath fogging up in the night air. The cookies were gone. My phone battery was dying. The only light came from the overhead bulb, flickering like it couldn't decide to stay or leave. I broke the silence. So, what's the plan after Florence? More countries? Secret missions? She didn't laugh, but she did answer. Barcelona. Then nice. But after that, back home. London. She nodded. You? I shrugged. Anywhere but back. She looked at me for a moment. You're running. I met her eyes. You're not. That quieted her. I leaned back, staring up at the ceiling. My dad thinks travel will fix me, that I'll come back ready to be a man of purpose. His words. Maybe he's right, she said softly. Maybe he's scared I'll waste the life he gave up his own for. Her gaze lowered. I could see something shift in her. Not pity, something more dangerous. Understanding. You ever feel like your life was chosen for you before you even had a say? I asked. She didn't answer, but her hands, tightly clasped in her lap, spoke loud enough. Later, when the rain softened and her head rested lightly against my shoulder, I didn't move. I just sat there still and quiet, and for the first time in a long while, I didn't feel lost.
I woke to sunlight. For a disoriented moment, I didn't know where I was, just the feel of cold metal beneath me, the scent of rain-damp concrete, the sound of early trains rumbling through the station. Then I looked up. Adrian sat beside me, one arm draped behind the bench, head tilted back, mouth slightly open, sleeping. And my head had been resting on his shoulder. I shot upright, heart racing. My scarf was askew, my blouse buttoned, everything intact. Still, panic clawed at my chest. I turned to him, voice barely above a whisper. Did we? His eyes opened slowly. He looked at me, then blinked the sleep away. What? Last night. Did anything happen? He sat up straighter, shaking his head. No. Nothing happened. I searched his face. You're sure? A quiet pause. Liana, he said, using my name for the first time, soft and steady. I would never do anything you didn't want. Even if we were, he trailed off awkward now. You don't have to worry. The way he said it, no smirk, no tease, just truth. Something in me exhaled. I nodded. Thank you. He smiled gently. You talk in your sleep, you know. I froze. What did I say? Something about mangoes and setting yourself on fire? I groaned into my hands. He laughed, warm and unguarded. That was the first time I really looked at him. Not as a boy who talked too much, but as someone I could trust. And maybe someone I didn't want to stop traveling with just yet.
We caught the next train by sunrise. I slept most of the way. She didn't. She sat by the window, watching the Swiss hills blur past in silence. Her fingers laced tight in her lap like she was holding something fragile together. When we arrived in Florence, her friends were waiting. Big hugs. High-pitched squeals. My cue to disappear. I started walking toward my hostel when someone smacked me on the back. Adrian. Mateo grinned, all teeth and too much cologne. We thought you ghosted us. Nah, I muttered. Just missed a train. He spotted Liana in the crowd and raised a brow. Who's that? No one. He laughed. You're a terrible liar. That night, our two groups ended up at the same rooftop bar. Small world. She was on the far side of the terrace, surrounded by her friends. She was laughing. Different from London. Freer. Warmer. But I could tell by the way she kept glancing over her shoulder. She knew I was there. At one point, we locked eyes. Just briefly. I raised my glass. She didn't wave, but she didn't look away. Later, as I lay in bed, staring at a cracked ceiling fan, I whispered to no one, not mine, then closed my eyes and added, almost against my will, not yet.
The last night in Florence smelled like warm wine, old stone and fading summer. Our group celebrated on the rooftop of the hostel, string lights flickering above and laughter echoing over the city. I should have been laughing too. I tried. But every time I looked across the terrace and didn't see him, something in me pulled tight. Then I found him. He was sitting alone on the far ledge, legs dangling dangerously, head tipped toward the stars. I walked over. Quietly. Don't fall, I said, my voice barely audible over the wind. He looked back and smiled. I was hoping you'd come. I sat beside him. Not close, just enough to feel the edge of his warmth. For a while we didn't speak. The silence between us was different now. Not awkward. Heavy. Full of things we weren't brave enough to say. Finally he turned to me. His hand reached out, hesitating, then gently tucked a strand of hair behind my ear. The moment stretched, waiting. He didn't kiss me. He could have. I might have let him. But he didn't. And somehow, that meant more. The next morning, on the train back to London, our knees brushed beneath the table. He didn't move his. Neither did I. When he reached under the table and took my hand, fingers lacing softly with mine, I held on. Like I didn't want to let go. Because I didn't. London looked different after him. Quieter. The trip was over, but pieces of it clung to me like perfume in my suitcase. The taste of lemon gelato. The sound of his laugh. The way our hands found each other beneath the train table like a secret we weren't ready to explain. I should have told no one. But that evening, while helping Mama peel vegetables, it spilled out. There's someone, I said, voice soft. Someone I met. She paused mid-peel. What kind of someone? His name's Adrian. He's kind. Honest. He treated me like I was free. Mama didn't say anything. Just went back to slicing, slower now. Then came the sound of a door creaking behind us. I turned. Papa stood there, silent and watching. My stomach dropped. The next morning, my suitcase was packed. Not by me. We're going home, Papa said. No explanation, no room for protest. Home, I repeated. To Iloilo? Why now? He didn't answer. Just handed me my passport, then took it right back. Mama looked away as I begged. Is this because of Adrian? I asked, voice cracking. Papa's jaw tightened. Because you forgot who you are. I stood there, breath shaking, heart thudding. Back to the island. Back to Marco. Back to the life I'd just started breaking free from.
Her house was quiet. Too quiet. I stood on the narrow London street, staring at the flat Liana told me she lives in. The same one she warned me never to visit. My dad's rules. Please, don't ever come here, she'd said once, voice trembling. But she wasn't answering her phone. Not her texts. Not even a read receipt. So I came. I rang the doorbell twice. Nothing. Then a woman next door peeked out with a curious frown. Looking for Manuel? Yes, I said, my voice dry. Is Liana here? She shook her head. They left. Packed up and flew back to the Philippines about a week ago. Bit sudden, really. My heart dropped like a stone. I backed away with a nod, muttering thanks, but her words echoed all the way to the bus stop. Back to the Philippines. She was gone, just like that. But something didn't sit right. She wouldn't leave without saying goodbye, unless she thought it was safer that way. Or final. I sat alone in my room that night, the address swirling in my mind like an old song. Iloilo. She had said it only once. A sleepy story about mango trees, warm air, and her Lola's kitchen. I grew up near a mango orchard in Iloilo, she'd said, smiling faintly. I can still smell the wind sometimes. It was all I had, so I made a decision. After dinner, I knocked gently on Dad's study door. He looked up from a document, surprised to see me for once with purpose in my eyes. I think I want to visit the Philippines, I said. He raised an eyebrow. Really? Why? I shrugged, casual as I could. You've always said I should know where I come from. I figured now's the time. He smiled, approving. I'm proud of you, son. About time. Take as long as you need. I nodded, heart pounding. He didn't know the truth. That I was going not to find myself, but to find her. Not to disrupt her life. Not to steal her from anyone. Just to stand where she stood. To be close enough to hope again.
The heat clings to my skin like a second layer. Back in London, the July breeze would have kissed my cheeks cool. Here every breath is thick, heavy like the weight in my chest. And it has been like this for a week now. Mama calls me from the kitchen, asking me to help shell the shrimp. I nod, obediently, but my hands move on their own. My mind it's elsewhere. In him. Adrian. I haven't heard a word since that last moment in the airport. No messages. No sign. I told myself it was better this way. That if he truly cared, he'd fight for me. That if he didn't, well, I should learn to forget him. But forgetting someone who made you feel seen for the first time is like trying to unlearn how to breathe. Marco walks in, talking about the caterers for the engagement party. He doesn't ask what I think. He never does. He just assumes. And I nod again, like I'm supposed to. Like a good daughter. A good fiancé. But everything inside me rebels. After lunch, I sneak to the balcony, the only place where I can hear myself think. The street below hums with life. Children chasing a tricycle. A woman hanging damp clothes under the sun. The church bell tolling in the distance. I grip the railing and close my eyes. Adrian, where are you? Then I hear it. My name. Faint, unsure. Liana. I turn so fast my heart stumbles. My breath catches in my throat. He's here. Adrian. In a plain shirt, dust on his shoes, backpack slung over his shoulder, and eyes that haven't changed. Still searching for me. Still mine. I want to run to him. I almost do. But the iron bars of my balcony feel like a cage. I clutch them tighter. What are you doing here? I whisper, even though my voice shakes. He lifts a hand uncertain. Looking for you. The noise of the street fades. Everything slows. And for the first time since I left London, I breathe.
I was walking along the pier just after sunrise when I saw him. Marco, struggling with a stubborn jet ski that wouldn't start. His sister screamed from the water, panicked. He dove in and didn't come up for air as fast as he should have. Instinct kicked in. I didn't think. I just jumped. Next thing I knew, I was dragging Marco to the shore. Coughing, gasping, alive. He looked up at me, dazed. You saved my life, man. And just like that, I was in. Now I sit under their family's mango tree, a plate of pancit in one hand, an awkward smile on my face. Liana walks past in a pale blue dress. She doesn't look at me. She hasn't, not in front of anyone. But I catch it, the tiniest twitch of her fingers. A secret code. I see you. I'm still here. Don Roberto slaps my back with too much enthusiasm. You're staying for dinner again, yes? Isabella made your favorite, though I don't know how she figured that out. I glance at Isabella. She blushes. I smile politely. Can't say no to that. Marco throws an arm around me like we're brothers. You should help with the wedding plans. Honestly, you've got taste, bro. We could use it. So I do. I go suit shopping with Marco. I give flower arrangement suggestions. I carry chairs. I play the perfect guest. The dependable friend. The guy everyone trusts. Everyone except Tito Manuel. He watches me like a hawk. Cold eyes. Firm jaw. Barely speaks when I greet him. I keep my distance. I respect the boundaries. I never go near Liana alone. Not where he can see. But at night, when the others sleep, she meets me by the old guava tree behind the house. We whisper like ghosts. Hearts exposed in the shadows. I hate this, she says one night, voice trembling. Pretending. Watching you be kind to him. To them. When it's me, you. I know. I hold her hand, just for a second. But I'm playing a long game, Liana. I'm not here to steal you. I'm here to prove I deserve you. She leans into me, just enough to remember what real love feels like. Then pulls away before the moon catches us. I walk back to the guest house alone. From the porch, Tito Manuel watches. He knows I'm not just here to help. But for now, he says nothing.
Marco's family has actually been in my family house here in Iloilo for the past 1 week. According to my papa, this was a way to make planning the wedding easy for everyone. Isabella, Marco's sister, had always been warm, but lately her warmth toward Adrian had grown persistent. She'd laugh at everything he said, even when it wasn't funny. Sit just a little too close. Touch his arm during conversations, her eyes wide and hopeful. And Adrian, bless him. He was polite, kind, maybe too kind. At first, I thought I was imagining it. Then one afternoon, I walked into the sala and found Isabella placing her hand over his, whispering something. Adrian pulled back gently, eyes flicking toward me. Guilt and confusion tangled in his gaze. That night, over dinner, Don Roberto declared, "I haven't seen Isabella smile this much in years. Must be our visitor's charm." Everyone laughed. Adrian's father, who had flown in that day to surprise his son, joined the laughter, beaming proudly. "Adrian's always been good with people," he said. "Especially girls. Maybe it's time he settled down with a proper one." My fork trembled. I lowered it. Tito Manuel said nothing, just sipped his soup, but I noticed the way his eyes narrowed at Adrian, always watching, always measuring. Don Roberto, meanwhile, leaned forward. "We should talk," he told Adrian's father, "about business and other possibilities." The next day, I overheard them in the garden, Don Roberto, his wife, and Adrian's father. "She's beautiful," Adrian's father said. "And your family prestigious. I'd be honored if he married your daughter." Every word felt like a stone pressing against my chest. I couldn't breathe. Isabella was glowing. Marco, too, seemed amused by it all, like he was in on a joke I wasn't allowed to understand. And Adrian? He just kept smiling, nodding, pretending like nothing was wrong. But when our eyes met across the room, there was a quiet ache in his. A question he couldn't ask. An answer I wasn't ready to give. Was he still fighting for us? Or was he starting to let go? I turned away. The weight of silence was safer than the truth. For now.
I smiled through gritted teeth as Don Roberto clapped me on the back again. "You'll make a fine addition to the family, hijo," he said, pouring me another glass of lambanog. "Isabella can't stop talking about you." "Aye, young love." I laughed, light, polite, hollow. Every second I spent in this house felt like walking barefoot on a sword's edge. Liana sat across the room, flanked by her aunties, her face unreadable. She hadn't looked at me since this conversation started. She didn't need to. I felt her panic like my own. Her mother leaned toward her and whispered something. Liana gave a nod, so small I almost missed it. I wondered if they were discussing floral arrangements or how best to kill me quietly in my sleep. I'd come to earn her family's trust. Instead, I'd wandered into a trap of my own making. The real twist? Everyone loved me. The cousins, the helpers. Even Marco seemed to respect me now, after that whole ocean rescue nonsense. We'd joked over grilled squid just this morning. He'd offer me a cigar, but I didn't want Marco's cigar. I didn't want Isabella's soft glances or Tito Manuel's narrowed eyes watching me like I was a puzzle piece that almost, but not quite fit. I wanted Liana. I wanted her in the way that made my bones ache, quiet, raw, desperate. And now, the same family that stole her from me was handing me a place at their table, as someone else's groom. My dad was thriving. He called this trip divine intervention. Said it was time I settled down with a good, respectable girl. He meant Isabella, of course. If only he knew. He didn't know about Zurich, or the missed train, or the morning she cried in my arms because she didn't want to go back. He didn't know that I'd fallen so hard for a quiet girl on a train platform that I crossed oceans just to keep a promise I never got to make. The music swelled. People clapped. Isabella reached for my arm, smiling. And Liana finally looked at me. She didn't smile. She blinked slowly, like she was bracing herself for something sharp. I blinked back. I wasn't letting go. Not now. Not ever.
I found him outside, leaning on the balcony rail, his shirt half untucked, tie loose around his neck. The moonlight clung to his face, tired, hopeful, hiding a storm. He didn't hear me at first. Or maybe he did and waited. "Adrian." He turned slowly. A flicker of relief crossed his face. But he didn't smile. Not like before. "I thought you weren't coming out," he said. His voice was soft, guarded. I stepped beside him. "You disappeared after dinner." He glanced back through the window, where Marco and Isabella were still laughing with his father. It didn't feel like my place anymore. I swallowed hard. "They really like you." He laughed, bitter and quiet. "Yeah, especially Isabella." I looked down, fingers curling around the wooden rail. "She's sweet." "She's not you." Silence pressed in around us. The music faded. Only the crickets spoke now. You've won them all over, I said. Except the one who matters, he replied. I turned toward him. My father. He's complicated. I don't blame him, Adrian said. I'd hate me too if I were him. I barged into your life. I crossed a line. I shook my head. No. You gave me something no one else has. A choice. He turned to face me fully now, eyes searching mine. Then let's choose, he said. Let's run. Tonight. My heart thundered. We can't. Why not? Because I don't want to leave like a thief, I whispered. I want to be free, yes, but not at the cost of everything my parents built. He exhaled, his knuckles whitening on the rail. So what do we do? I looked up at him, tears forming. We wait. We fight. We hope. Adrian reached out and touched my hand. Warm, steady, trembling with the same fear I carried. I'll wait, he said. Just don't marry him. I won't, I promised, voice shaking. And for the first time in days, I believed it.
I was standing near the staircase, adjusting my collar, when a shouting started. Liana! Tito Manuel roared, sharp, thunderous, cutting through the noise like a blade. Silence fell. Plates stopped clinking. Conversations died mid-sentence. I turned, just as he stormed out, a crumpled photograph shaking in his hand. He saw her first. What is this? He demanded, voice like fire. She froze halfway down the stairs. Papa. He held up the photo for all to see. It was us. Amsterdam. My arms around her. Her smile. My forehead pressed to hers. Intimate. Undeniable. Gasps rippled through the crowd as everyone turned. Don Roberto, Dona Celeste, Isabella, Marco, my father wide-eyed. Every guest watched in stunned silence. You've been lying this whole time, Tito Manuel roared, voice raw with betrayal. You brought this boy into my home, under false pretenses. I didn't plan, she started. He rounded on me. And you snake, you had the gall to sit at my table, to act honorable while courting disgrace. I stepped forward. Sir, I came with respect. I didn't intend to. Didn't intend? Marco barked, stepping between us, face red. You think this is some love story? You've been sneaking behind our backs. Don Roberto's eyes narrowed. Adrian, is this true? I looked at my father, who shook his head, confused, embarrassed. Tito Manuel raised a trembling hand toward the door. Get out. I hesitated. Liana reached for me. Don't, her father snapped. Touch him again, and I'll drag you both out. Her hand fell. Her eyes brimmed with helpless tears. No one said a word. Just judgment, disappointment, surrounding me like a wall. I turned to my father. I'll explain later. Then I looked at Liana. No matter what happens. I meant every word. And I left, quietly, with every eye on my back.
The silence that followed Papa's outburst was a scream in itself. Adrian's footsteps faded behind the rusted garden gate, but his absence pressed louder than his presence. I couldn't move, couldn't breathe. My legs felt carved from stone. Isabella stood frozen beside me, her eyes brimming. She looked not at me but at Papa, then at the photo still clutched in his hand. You knew, she whispered. All this time, Liana, we told each other everything. Tears flooded my eyes. I didn't plan it. I didn't mean for. She stepped back. You could have told me. I trusted you. I reached for her, but she turned away, her shoulders shaking. Don Roberto exhaled sharply and looked toward Adrian's father, who stood awkwardly by the veranda. I must apologize, Adrian's father said quietly. I was unaware. If I had known, I would never have allowed my son to stay under false pretenses. I had no intention of disrespect. His voice was sincere, humble, even trembling a little. Don Roberto gave a long, heavy nod. It's unfortunate. But I can see your remorse. Let us leave it at that. Papa said nothing. He simply turned and walked toward the back of the house, his fists clenched, his shoulders trembling. Not with rage this time, but something quieter, sadder. Disappointment. Marco slammed his glass down. You're all just going to let him walk away? Isabella moved toward him. Marco, please. Don't. No, his voice cut through the air. He's not going to just leave like that. He disrespected our home, lied to our faces, humiliated me, and you all just stand here. I grabbed his arm. Marco, don't make it worse. Please. But he pulled away. I'll make it right. And then he was gone, charging down the path like a storm. A few of the younger cousins tried to stop him. Even Don Roberto called out. But it was no use. Marco was already halfway to the main road. Isabella ran after him, shouting. My mother followed. Don Roberto turned to Adrian's father. Perhaps it's best you prepare to leave. I understand, Adrian's father said softly. As he stepped into the waiting car, I saw the sorrow in his eyes. Not anger. Not shame. Just a quiet mourning. For a son who loved someone he wasn't supposed to. And as the engine hummed and the car rolled down the hill, I stood alone in the driveway, tears falling silently onto the stone steps, clutching a memory I wasn't ready to let go of.
The terminal was quiet at first. Just the groan of departing engines and the clink of loose bolts on rusted benches. I stood alone, hands shaking in my pockets, heart heavier than my suitcase. The heat pressed down on my bruises, and for the first time in my life, I felt defeated. Then I heard my name, spat like venom. Adrian. I turned just in time to see Marco charge through the crowd. His shirt was wrinkled, jaw tight, eyes blazing. Behind him came his cousins, tried to grab his arm, slow him down. Isabella screamed for him to stop, but he shoved them off like flies. You lied to all of us, Marco shouted. You made a fool of my family, of me. I didn't move. Marco, please. You stole her from me. I didn't steal her, I said, my voice cracking. I loved her first. I loved her quietly, while she cried in her room because she couldn't choose what she wanted. He lunged at me. The first punch split my lip. The second knocked me into a concrete post. I didn't fight back. Not yet. I let the pain wash over me. Maybe I deserved it. Maybe this was the price for loving her. Then his fists kept coming, and something in me snapped. I blocked the next blow, swung hard, and hit him square in the ribs. We grappled. Dust flew. People shouted. His cousins tried to intervene, but we were locked in it. Rage and heartbreak in motion. He landed a blow that sent my nose bleeding. I returned one that knocked him down. He charged again. I caught him by the collar and slammed him into a pole. Stop, Isabella sobbed. Please, one of the cousins cried. But it was only when Marco fell to his knees, gasping, face streaked with dirt and shame, that everyone froze. I stood above him, bloodied, shaking, but unbroken. And I said, you want to hate me, fine, but don't lie to yourself. She never belonged to you. Marco's chest heaved. His fists clenched again. I didn't come here for revenge, or to ruin your name, I said, my voice softer now, trembling. I came because she's the only thing in this world I couldn't walk away from. I came to do things right, but maybe I was already too late. That's when a silence fell. And then, footsteps. Tito Manuel emerged through the crowd. His face was carved from stone. He said nothing at first, just looked at Marco, then me. I turned to him, barely standing straight. I am sorry, Elide. I should have told you from the beginning, but I didn't just follow her here. I followed my heart. I love her, and I always will. Still no answer. Then, finally, my father arrived, breathless, eyes darting between me and the blood drying on my shirt. Son, he said, shocked. The bus horn blared. I looked at them all, Marco still kneeling, Isabella in tears, Tito Manuel, arms folded in that rigid, condemning silence, and Liana, still nowhere in sight. I have nothing else to give, I whispered. Then I turned and boarded the bus beside my father. The doors hissed shut, and I held on to nothing except the memory of her eyes and the hope that she hadn't given up on me yet.
I ran, barefoot across gravel. The sting didn't matter. I couldn't feel anything but the sound of that bus engine fading in the distance. My lungs burned. My vision blurred. Adrian! I screamed. But the terminal was already clearing. The bus pulled out of the bay, its red taillights glowing dimly through the crowd. And just like that, he was slipping away again. No, 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 please, I whispered, stumbling to a stop. Papa's voice came from behind me. Steady. Firm. Liana. I turned, my heart pounding, my hands trembling. His face was unreadable. Not angry, not yelling, just tired, weathered, like he'd aged 10 years in a single day. Please, Papa, I said, the words breaking in my throat. I didn't mean to lie. I fell in love. He didn't speak. I tried to forget him. I tried to do what you asked. I stayed quiet. I wore the dress. I smiled at Marco. I tried to become the daughter you wanted, but I was dying inside, Papa. Still, he said nothing. Tears streaked down my cheeks. He didn't trick me. He didn't chase me. I chose him. And I've never been more sure of anything in my life. My knees buckled and I sank to the ground. Please don't let him leave thinking I didn't fight for him. Silence. Then, I heard his footsteps. Slow. Measured. Coming toward me. For a moment, I thought he'd walk past. But then I felt his hand on my shoulder. Gently. The way he used to when I was little and sick in bed. His voice was rough, quiet. You're not a child anymore. I looked up at him, breathless. If you truly believe this love is worth it, he said, then go. I won't stop you. A cry tore from my throat. I threw my arms around him, and for the first time in years, he held me like a father again. No words. Just warmth. Understanding. I pulled back, breath shaking. Thank you. Then I turned, heart pounding, and ran toward the road, just as the bus reached the corner. My legs pushed harder, faster. My lungs screamed. The bus slowed at the intersection. Adrian, I shouted. A figure moved by the window. And then, just like before on that first train in Florence, his hand appeared through the open door. I leapt forward, grasping it. He pulled me in. The doors closed behind us, and the world outside fell away.
She ran past me, barefoot, breathless, like the wind itself had grown desperate. Adrian! She screamed, her voice cracking open the sky. I stood there, unmoving. The others behind me murmured. Don Roberto, Isabella, even Marco's aunt clutching her chest. But I heard none of them. All I saw was my little girl chasing after a bus. And then she stopped, fell to her knees, like the weight of every moment she had carried had finally broken her. Please, Papa. That voice. It was no longer the obedient child I raised. It was the voice of a woman who had chosen love. I tried to forget him. I wore the dress. I smiled at Marco. But I was dying inside. Each word hit like a stone in my chest. I looked at her, and for the first time I really saw her. Not the dutiful daughter who bowed her head. Not the girl who once hid behind her mother's skirt. No, this was a woman begging not for my approval but for the chance to live. And I realized something. She had never smiled the way she did with Adrian. Not once. Not even on the day we arrived in this village. I thought she was being respectful, obedient, but she was just resigned. And in Marco's eyes that same night, I saw her sadness reflected. He knew too, but he held on, just like I did. Was I proud of holding her back? Or would I be proud of setting her free? The murmurs behind me faded as I stepped forward. I placed my hand on her shoulder. She flinched at first, then looked up. Her eyes were wide, full of fear. Hope, you're not a child anymore, I said, and in those words I let go. If you truly believe this love is worth it, then go. I won't stop you. A breath left her. Asobi. She clung to me and I held her. Not as a father protecting his name, but as a father protecting her heart. When she pulled away, her face was lit with something I hadn't seen in years. Freedom. As she ran, the others stood still. Even Don Roberto said nothing. Isabella lowered her head. Marco turned away. But I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Peace. Not because I had lost, but because I had finally listened. And when I saw her leap into that bus, into the arms of the man she chose, I knew I had done what every father should. I gave my daughter the space to follow her heart. And in that moment I was proud, not just of her, but of myself.
The bus pulled away with a gentle lurch, the gravel crunching beneath us like the final breath of storm. I stared out the window, bleeding knuckles, throbbing cheekbone, A rib I was almost sure was bruised. But none of that mattered. Now when I felt her beside me, Liana, breathing, crying, laughing, all at once. Like she couldn't believe this was real. Neither could I. She reached for my hand. Slowly, like she was still afraid it would vanish. I turned my palm up, let her fingers slide into mine. They fit. They always did. "I'm sorry I left," she whispered. "No," I said, my voice rough. "I'm sorry I made you feel like you had to." Her head leaned onto my shoulder. I flinched a little from the pain, but I didn't move. I would have held the whole sky for her if she asked. We didn't say much after that. The silence wasn't empty. It was full of everything we didn't need to say. The roar of the engine, the winding roads, the fading village behind us. I stole a glance at her, wind in her hair, eyes puffy but alive, and on her lips a smile. Just a little one, but real. God, I had missed that smile. I leaned my head back and closed my eyes. I didn't know where we were going exactly. I didn't know what the next fight would look like, or how her father would feel tomorrow, or even if my father would still support us once we returned to London. But I knew this. She chose me. She ran to me. And whatever came next, we'd face it together. I held her hand tighter, and for the first time in weeks, my chest stopped aching. The girl I loved had found her way back, and I would never let her go again.
The garden was quiet that evening. Too quiet for a house that had just witnessed so much pain and revelation. The lanterns swayed gently in the breeze, casting long shadows across the floor. I stood outside, watching the night fall over everything I thought I had control over. Don Roberto was seated near the fountain, arms folded, back straight. His eyes didn't flinch when I approached. He'd always been proud, like me, a man who held tradition close, who believed in family, duty, honor. And I had betrayed all three. At least that's how it must have felt to him. "I didn't come to argue," I said, voice low, steady. "Only to speak, man to man." He didn't stop me, but the silence between us was thicker than any words. "I know you're hurt, Roberto, and maybe you should be. We made a promise to each other, our children, our families. We said their union would bind us. Deepen the trust we've carried all these years." He looked at me now, finally, and I saw it beneath the anger, the heartbreak. He wasn't just disappointed as a father. He was mourning a dream we had both built. "I didn't break that promise lightly," I continued. "You have to know that." He said nothing. "I wanted the best for Liana, and I thought Marco was it. Kind, stable, from a family I trust with my life. I thought I was giving her peace, a future, and maybe I thought I owed it to you, to our friendship, that tying our families together would be our legacy." His shoulders dropped slightly, like the weight of the evening had finally settled on him too. I see now that I wasn't listening to her heart. I was listening to our history, to my pride. Still no words, but his gaze softened. "She chose Adrian," I said quietly. "Not because he's better, not because he has more to offer, but because her soul met his and couldn't walk away." A long silence passed before Roberto finally spoke. "I raised Marco with honor, with values, to be good to his wife no matter who she is." He looked away. "But maybe this time honor meant letting go." My throat tightened. "He was brave today, your son. He didn't lash out. He didn't beg. He understood." Roberto nodded once, then slowly stood. "You did what you had to do as a father, and I suppose I would have done the same." We stood there, two old men with cracked hearts, holding on to something bigger than ourselves, our children's happiness. "We're still family, Manuel," he said finally, offering his hand. "Just not the way we planned." I took it, clasped it tightly. "Maybe something better." He let out a soft chuckle. "Let's just hope that boy doesn't screw it up." We both laughed then. Tired, relieved, aged by the day. The storm had passed, and somehow we were still standing.
The streets of London felt different now, less like a cage, more like home. I stood outside the door of the house I once tiptoed through, heart clenched with fear of disappointing the man on the other side. Now my heart thudded with something gentler. Hope, peace, maybe a little nervous excitement. Adrian carried our bags. I carried our daughter, soft and sleepy against my chest, her tiny breath warming the crook of my neck. Before I could knock, the door opened. Papa stood there, eyes already misting, and before either of us could say a word, he wrapped his arms around me, around us, around her. My baby girl, he whispered, voice breaking. You came home. Mama's inside, he added quickly, waving us in as if afraid we'd change our minds. The house smelled like warm soup and my mother's jasmine oil. Adrian offered a polite smile, stepping in quietly, but Papa turned to him with a new kind of embrace, not stiff or hesitant, but strong, sure. I'm glad she chose you, Papa said. Adrian's eyes widened just slightly. Then he nodded. Thank you for letting her. The afternoon passed like a dream I used to beg for. My mother fussed over the baby, cooing and singing old lullabies I hadn't heard since childhood. Papa showed Adrian the garden he'd planted with his own hands. There was laughter, clinking spoons, old family photos pulled from dusty albums. And in every quiet moment, I caught my father watching us, me, Adrian, our daughter, with a look I never thought I'd see on his face. Peace. Later, as the sun dipped low and golden light spilled across the sitting room, Papa and I stepped outside. I carried the baby. He carried a softness I had never seen in him when I was younger. You were right, Papa, I said gently. Love is messy, uncertain, but it's worth it. He didn't respond at first. Just looked at me, really looked, like he was seeing all the parts of me at once. The daughter he raised. The woman I'd become. I didn't let you go, he finally said. I let you grow, and I thank God every day that I did. I placed her tiny hand in his. My daughter giggled in her sleep. Your mama says she looks like me, he chuckled softly. She's got your eyes, I said. And your stubbornness. He laughed at that, a deep, free laugh that rolled into the sky. For the first time in my life, we weren't just father and daughter. We were friends. Adrian stepped out to join us, his arm wrapping around my waist. And in that quiet, still moment, under a London sky, holding the child born of a love we fought for, I realized something. This was more than a happy ending. This was the beginning of everything I never knew I was allowed to want.